Chapter 7, My Dinner Goes Up in Smoke. So in this chapter, Percy tries to apologize for the toilet incident, telling Annabeth it wasn't his fault, but he knows in the pit of his stomach that it actually was his fault. And Annabeth tells him that he needs to talk to the oracle. Percy is overwhelmed by all that he's soaked in during his first day at Camp Half-Blood, and he wants to go home. And Annabeth tells him, you know, Percy, don't you understand you are home and that this is the only safe place for kids like us? And Annabeth tells him that he is half human, half God, or in other words, a demigod. And she tells Percy that his father isn't dead and that he's actually one of the Olympians. And that Annabeth tells Percy that her dad is a human and he's a professor of American history at West Point. Her mom is Athena, goddess of wisdom and battle. And she lives in cabin 6, Athena's cabin. Annabeth lives in cabin 6. And Percy, because she's telling him this, he really wants to know who his dad is. And she says that his dad might send him a sign claiming Percy as his own. But she also warns him that gods often don't claim their children. Percy remembers seeing some lonely, unhappy kids in cabin 11, and he realizes they are probably undetermined, which means unclaimed by their immortal moms or dads. And Annabeth tells Percy that if he belongs to a goddess like Aphrodite or Demeter, he might be able to go home after the summer is over. Their force is not as powerful as that of some other gods and goddesses, and monsters have a harder time picking up on it. Then she gives him some more useful info on monsters. Annabeth tells her that in the mortal world, we attract monsters and that they can sense us. They come to challenge us. Most of the time, they ignore us until we're old enough to cause trouble, which is usually about 10 or 11 years old. But after that, most demigods either make their way here or they get killed off. A few manage to survive in the outside world and become famous. Believe me, if I told you the names, you know them. Some don't even realize they're demigods, but very few are like that. So that's the conversation that Annabeth is having with Percy. She tells Percy that the borders of Camp Half-Blood Hill are sealed to keep monsters and mortals out. Monsters can't get into camp unless they are intentionally stocked in the forest for practice fights or summoned by someone inside the camp for maybe like a practical joke. Percy learns that Annabeth is a year-rounder. She's been at Camp Half-Blood since she was 7, so she's always there. He asks if he could leave Camp Half-Blood right now if he wanted to. Annabeth tells him that it would be suicide and that he would have to get Mr. D and Chiron's permission to leave. And they won't give him the permission until the other summer unless Percy was granted a quest. And then she stops there. When she mentions the word quest, she just stops talking about it. And Percy remembers that Annabeth asked him what he knew about the summer solstice when she was nursing him back to his health at the beginning of chapter 5. And he recalls that, and he doesn't know anything about the summer solstice, but he brings it up anyway. And Annabeth, because she's eager to hear about it, she knows Chiron and Grover are keeping a secret from her about the summer solstice. She says something is wrong in Olympus, something pretty major. And last time I was there, everything seemed so normal. And Annabeth, Luke, and some of the year-rounders took a field trip to Mount Olympus during the last winter solstice. And we also learned that Mount Olympus is located on the 600th floor of the Empire State Building. Because remember, they said it was now in America. Annabeth tells Percy that soon after their field trip to Mount Olympus, the weather got really bad, as though the gods were fighting. And she thinks that something important has been stolen from Mount Olympus. And if it isn't returned by the summer solstice, they're going to be in trouble. And she's hoping that Chiron and Mr. D will grant her quest. She wants to help solve whatever the problem is that's brewing on Mount Olympus. Percy is being overwhelmed by everything he has heard, and he's becoming very tired. He's hungry, and he leaves Annabeth while Annabeth is still thinking about what she was having the discussion with Percy about. And he goes back into cabin 11, the Hermes cabin. And when he gets there, Luke asks him how his day went, and he basically just tells him he's exhausted. Percy asks Luth what Annabeth means when she's talking about him being the one, and why Clarice says he's not big three material. Luke tells him that Annabeth is desperately hoping to get a quest. Luke says that he messed things up for her when he failed on his quest back with the Garden of Hesperides a few years back. Chiron apparently told Annabeth that he saw her fate and she wasn't ready for a quest yet. She would be ready when someone arrived. Since hearing that prophecy, Annabeth thinks that every new camper is the one and that she is ready for her quest. After they have that conversation, all the campers go and have their dinner. Percy can ask for anything to drink and it magically appears in his glass. And of course he asks for a blue cherry Coke in honor of his mom who loves blue food. He toasts to his mom, knowing his heart that she must be alive. All of the campers offer up a piece of their meal to the bonfire in the middle of the dining room. As Percy makes his offering, he silently asks his dad, whoever that may be, to claim him. The bonfire smoke was delicious, smells delicious. The campers have a campfire where they sing songs and make s'mores, and this makes Percy start to feel at home. And at the end of the night, they all return to their cabin, and Percy falls into a deep sleep, and he thinks about his mom. And we know that there is more excitement to continue to come.